Okay, so now we're going to get into water efficiency. It's a category within the LEED rating system, and the first credit is called outdoor water use reduction, and this is a prerequisite. As a reminder, if you don't get all of your prerequisites in every category, you lose your system. The intent here, of course, is to reduce outdoor water consumption. And again, if you live in the US, you know that we have a lot of green fields that need a lot of water and a lot of gardens that don't have indigenous plants, so we're always watering our gardens. And what LEED would like to see you do is to think about your landscapes as not needing all of that water, to think about local indigenous plants and systems that generate no need for water. So couldn't you design a landscape that has no irrigation required? We call that xeriscaping here in this country. Or if you're going to have some irrigation, you want to greatly reduce it. And again, I would say see the LEED V4 reference guide for new construction for more details on that. Another prereq is indoor water use. So here we're going to do, and every year LEED makes this harder and harder, or more ambitious and more ambitious, and the idea here is, well, low flow fixtures and efficient plumbing fixtures. And those are becoming a lot cheaper and a lot easier to install. I got my first dual flush toilet a few years back, and the plumber said, I don't know how to install this, when in fact it was still pretty much the same thing. And there are all kinds of requirements here. There's a baseline that you design against, and that, well, actually, no, you have to meet the baseline here, and then later you're going to have an opportunity to get points to exceed the baseline. So there you go, indoor water. And now we have building level water metering, which is brand new. And this is where LEED version 4 starts to seem really exciting. You're going to see a lot of differences between LEED version 4 and 3 if you know the system, starting about now and going through a lot of the next few points. So this idea of metering, of beginning to understand just how much are you using. It's hard to say, we're going to save 10% energy, or I'm sorry, 10% water, and we don't really know how much water we use now. Is 10% good? I have no idea. So part of what LEED is pushing us towards is more intelligent thinking and based on evidence on how we can begin to have design interventions. And so we want to start to install meters. And one of the things that was really interesting in our LEED Gold building here on our campus, we had our meters installed for our bathrooms, and the water use was over the top. It was insane. It turned out that all of the watering for the adjacent baseball field was coming from our building, and therefore showing up on our meter, and therefore telling the client, us, how much water we were really using. And it was a lot, I hate to tell you. And so obviously to get this, you're going to have to submit meter data. And again, you're going to have to commit to sharing that with USGBC over a period of time. And I would say see your reference guide for more details on that, as the requirements are somewhat complex. Now we get into the optional points. These are where you can get additional points in your system. It's the same thing as before outdoor water use, same intent, same strategies. What we want to do is use local plants, for gosh sakes, and design landscapes that don't need watering or irrigation at all. I don't see why we can't do that here in the 21st century. And there's 2 points for the taking, by the way. Indoor water use reduction, 6 points. So if you think about 100 points as your total goal, 6 is actually pretty useful in terms of getting that. And the goal here, of course, is to reduce our indoor water consumption. And the strategies are the same as before, as when we talked about our prereq. We want to find ways to reduce the use of water on a daily basis. I think it's actually not that hard, and it's not that hard to measure. When you have water meters, it gets really easy to measure. So let's try to work towards that. And the only thing I'll say here is, having done a lot of LEED projects in the past, is the low flow shower fixtures tend to have problems when you build a condominium building, and residents will complain about the lack of water pressure in their low flow. And one of the solutions that you see more and more is you have a variable flow shower head, where residents can shift the amount of water coming out of the shower head to get, when they're not actually showering or just rinsing, you can do that. And there's a lot of water used in air conditioning systems. These giant rooftop units use a lot of water. So what LEED has come in version 4, and this is new also, is try to find ways to work with the client and the MEP to reduce the amount of water needed for air conditioning. As climate change becomes more and more real and global warming gets higher and higher, more and more air conditioning is needed to meet comfort levels, and therefore more water is needed. Depending on where you live in the United States, for example, this is really important. Some of us are living in areas where we don't have a lot of water. And in fact, water is used for hydropower. So all of these kinds of things are interconnected. And so what they want you to do is to do an analysis and to understand what the potential is there. Okay, water metering. So not only did we talk about water metering earlier, but we have an opportunity to do additional water metering or sub-metering to begin to think about different units within a project that can be measured. And by measuring, we find through the research that we can begin to save energy. And there are some of the things that we could begin to measure, such as irrigation, domestic hot water, etc. 1 point for that. And so that was really it. I mean, water is one of the shorter categories, but obviously, depending on where you live, one of the most important categories and critical in some areas. And so I would ask you as a sustainable designer to take that very seriously and begin to think about ways that you can do that. We're going to be looking at energy analysis in the next upcoming video, and I look forward to working with you on that topic.